So we're already on to the last episode of this run. As I type and talk, there will be a new episode out by tomorrow. By the time the video is done, it'll probably already be out. It's amazing to me just how many people have interacted or even just seen these videos more than 8 seconds in. Before these Hazbin videos, my most viewed video on my channel was about 300 views on an old Lackadaisy comic dub. The average view count for my mainline content, my War of the Worlds audiobook and stuff like that, is around 100 views over the course of months. My first Hazbin vid got 4 views in the first hour, then 70 by day's end. My second vid had 100 views in the first 10 hours. The third vid has been out for 2 hours already, and it has 30 views. At time of writing, at least. At the time of recording, it's been out 10 hours and has 176 views. Jesus. I've had more comments on one video of this series than I've had on a year's worth of content in the past. And it's all been extremely positive, to me and to the franchise, even those critiquing the series or correcting one of my mistakes. I honestly can't thank you guys enough. The beginning of this series was so galvanizing to my creative endeavors that I wrote 8,500 words in an afternoon until my fingers cramped, and I've not ever experienced that, not with any of my special interests like War of the Worlds, my screenplays, my writing commissions, my audiobooks. It's like being hit by lightning. Now that I've seen the reception of these videos, it's like that lightning rod has a constant buzz in the back of my mind, keeping me chugging on. I'm only now beginning to feel the wearing effects of posting a video back to back over the course of a week. One video every few days is hard on the body and mind, even though I've had a lot of energy for it. It's only just now starting to tell. Once this video is done, I'll be back to writing commissions for a few days, and then the next episode of Hazbin will be sorted. I don't know how many more episodes there'll be, but I've already got plans for future reviews. First on the list is the Lackadaisy pilot. Then we'll see where it goes from there. I can't thank you guys enough for the reception that you've given me and the energy you provide. Now, without any more sappy stuff, this needs to get serious for a moment. This episode contains scenes that I likely can't show on YouTube due to the sexual aspects. It also contains triggering content. If you see a trigger warning on screen, the next few scenes and moments of my dialogue will contain elements pertaining to SA and domestic violence. I don't know if DV is an appropriate or well-known abbreviation for that, and I'm sorry if just saying the full phrase upsets some people. While I've never been a victim to any great degree, I know the harrowing effect trauma can cause, and the startling images and feelings just a passing glance can elicit. The immense shock to the system that a single word can cause. Unconnected and seemingly irrelevant sights, smells, and words can evoke terror and irrational panic in droves. While I think addressing these themes is important, and this episode dealing with them is a useful thing as a story, it is quite painful to watch at times from someone with only a minor and situational trauma response, such as myself. And as such, I advise you to be aware of the content and protect yourself from it, if you know your limits, or even are unsure of them. If discussion or depiction of these topics might even have a chance to affect you in any way, there will be chapters and timecodes in the description to avoid these scenes and discussions. Just keep an eye and an ear out for my warnings. Everything will be okay. That being said, let's look at this rather dark episode, and the ways in which it shines a light through that darkness. Episode 4, Masquerade. Plot. The episode opens with Angel Dust tied up in a dank cellar, being interrogated by a wolf with a knife. The wolf wants to know where Angel's boss keeps his money, but Angel isn't talking. We then clumsily find out that this is a film that Angel made a while ago, and he's showing it to the residents of the hotel for Show and Tell Day. It won him an award, but the writing certainly won't win an award, as Husk points out. Charlie is very uncomfortable with this sequence, which we saw in the last episode and will see again soon enough. It's also interesting to see that Angel is kind of deserving of this award. While it's poorly written, Angel really does give the impression of momentary panic here. It's expressive, as if he knows how it should feel ending up in a situation like this, either through his living life or his afterlife. Husk commenting on the quality of the interrogation implies that he's seen his fair share too. We'll see more of this in a bit. Angel gets annoyed that Husk is bad-mouthing his work, but Husk points out that Angel does it all the time. He says that everyone tells their opinions and woes to the bartender, and goes absolutely off, airing out everyone's dirty laundry in front of everyone. He says Pentious is so pathetic that he watches the rest of them sleep to feel less alone. Charlie is trying to fix everyone so she'll feel less broken herself. Vaggie hates herself and sublimates that emotion by hating everyone else, but he specifically avoids commenting on Nifty's situation. Yeah, that scans. Angel tries flirting with Husk again, and instead of getting angry and swearing like normal, Husk finally confronts Angel about what annoys him. Angel, Husk says, is putting on a fake persona that Husk just wishes he'd drop. Angel mockingly is shocked that an actor would be fake at all. This is the only time we see him deflect this criticism without any real emotion. We're used to him deflecting his criticisms and emotions with comedy and insults, but this will change very soon. Before Angel can finish his joke, someone calls him, and we know from his reaction who it is. Valentina wants him to come in to film a scene. Angel leaves quickly to get to this emergency shoot, and Husk simply, dismissively says,
Sure.
This is enough for Angel to blow up at him. Husk is either dismissing Angel's quick and obvious restructuring of his conversation with Val, or he's just ending the conversation casually. Either way, it's too casual for Angel. He seems shaken, and Husk's dry and potentially pointed response causes Angel to attack him out of nowhere. Clearly, Angel feels the need to defend himself. This is the emotional equivalent of a flinch. Angel is also quite curt to Charlie here, who asks him to stay for their daily trust exercises. He's noticeably kinder to her, but still interrupts her. He has a genuine excuse here, though, as she is trying to pull him away from his job, his source of income. As such, it comes off more as a stress-induced comment that was maybe slightly more harsh than it needed to be, rather than a flat-out insult like he throws at Husk. This moment shows that he's more careful around Charlie than Husk. It's clear that in the last clip he feels threatened by Husk for diminishing his work, but maybe it's more than that, as we'll see in a bit. He's vulnerable after that conversation with Val, and the first person to talk to him after this being Husk is obviously a problem for him. He fights back against this perceived threat. He calms down and puts on his showgirl face for Charlie before gently and intentionally putting his foot down. He sees Husk as more of a threat than Charlie here, and he seems not to want to hurt her as much as he does Husk. Charlie hates how hard it is to redeem sinners, and Vaggie says that she may be going about it all wrong. Charlie is the princess of hell, and as such has power and authority. Vaggie loves that Charlie never uses that against people, but implies that she could use it in a gentle way to help others rather than serve her own needs. Charlie likes this idea, since commanding authority seems mean to her. Being aggressively kind is more her tempo. She comes up with a plan to confront Valentino and kindly but forcefully convince him to give Angel more free time at the hotel. Well, I see no downsides to this plan. Cut to Angel at work, commenting on not only the quality but the length of the scripts. Val says no one watches for the dialogue anyway, so Angel can wing it. Here we see Travis, where he's supposed to be for once, and the shots of him we see in the upcoming musical number confirm that he's Angel's director. I somehow didn't notice the giant word director on his megaphone and chair here, and thought that him wearing a trench coat might mean that he may be naked under there and waiting to go on set. While the caption I put on episode 1 about who Travis may be seemed like covering all of my bases at the time, now with closer scrutiny it reads more like a bad FNAF theory that's changed by later lore reveals. Anyway, Angel is about to continue the scene when Charlie walks in. She's very uncomfortable, morbidly fascinated and transfixed by the horrors she witnesses. I'm sure many fan artists are going to go crazy over this character here. Hell of a Boss already called you guys out. By the way, Hazbin has been out a week, and I already have seen things pop up on Google searches about characters that I never wanted to exist. AO3 articles about Zestial x Carmilla or Zestial x Rita. I even saw one that was Odette x Clara. Ugh. So, Angel tries to bundle Charlie out of the room before Valentino sees, as he knows what might happen if Val hears what Charlie has to say. Unfortunately, it's too late, and we get the most uncomfortable scene we see Charlie in. Jesus. Val tries to convince her to join in with the scene, but she roundly refuses before remembering herself. She talks to him about convincing him later to get Angel to have a bit more free time. This look from Val already puts a sinking feeling in my gut. They resume the scene, but Charlie is doing her best, which unfortunately is too much. She distracts this sound guy and interrupts the film. When she goes to Val to apologize, and we see Val holding back everything which we know is hard for him to do, she suggests more ideas for the film before tripping over an OSHA-violating fire hazard and beginning a raging inferno. The crew begin to evacuate, but of all the danger around him, Angel is more worried about Val. The seething demon overlord uses his wings to put out the fire, and then uses the last of his control to calmly tell Charlie to leave the cleanup to their staff. He pulls Angel aside for a conversation. Even the naive Charlie knows where this might go. Remember that warning I gave at the beginning? Skip to this time code if you need it. All good? Okay. Deep breath. Val beats Angel severely for having the gall to get Lucifer's daughter to fight his battles for him. He's convinced Angel asked her to talk to Val, since he's too spineless to do it himself. He keeps throwing Angel around the room, restraining him, touching him in uncomfortable ways, hurting him. All the while, Angel tells him he had nothing to do with it, begging Val to stop. Valentino pulls out Anthony's contract, telling him that whatever Val wants him to do, he has to do. Val does not want Angel to take any more time off, and demands he remove Charlie from the set and stay at work all night to endure a brutal and violent shoot against his will. Angel has to relent here, but the only time he doesn't immediately assent to Val's wishes is in relation to Charlie. He doesn't immediately say he'll get rid of her. He explains her actions, her naivety, and begs Val not to hurt her. Val threatens Angel that his attitude could get him killed. He tells him what to do, and then marches him back on set, aggressively shouting at all the staff to get back to work, while throwing Angel on the floor in front of Charlie. I so badly wish I could tell you that Charlie goes beast mode here to protect her friend. Unfortunately, this show is incredibly well written, and the one thing stopping Charlie from losing her mind and going full demon mode is Angel. Like a beaten dog, he defends his master, losing his cool and putting on his best angry front for Charlie, blaming her for all of this. It's clear that he doesn't want to, but he has to for his own survival. Valentino's smug expression while Charlie begins charging him makes me wish that we could see Charlie prove him wrong. Val seriously believes that despite this being the daughter of the King of Hell, despite her clear hidden potential and ability, that she isn't a threat. His confidence in his own abilities is clear, but he's also confident in his own control over Angel. Not expecting to have to take her down, but expecting Angel to get rid of her without effort on his part. It's clear this level of control also gets him off to some degree. Whatever sassy and entertaining vibes he had last time are gone, stripped away so we see the true monster beneath. I've never felt such a visceral reaction, never wanted violence more to be imposed on such a naive and caring person as Charlie, but I want to see Charlie release the beast and kill this entitled, abusive insect. Unfortunately we don't, and Charlie slinks off, pained by Angel's harsh words, and overwhelmed by not being able to help him. She already blames herself for everything in her life enough. Angel's words were the worst thing she could hear in this scenario. Angel is clearly hurt by this too, but Val despicably congratulates him for it, before throwing him right back into the fire. This musical number has none of the problems of the last few. The stagehands getting Angel ready for this scene while the music builds, not only the lingering miasma of emotions from the last sequence, allows us to know where this emotion comes from and why. The beginning of this song is frantic and poppy, like the heady vibes of a night on the town, with Angel singing about Val's poison, like a mid-2000s song about an addictive and sudden love affair, the seductive allure of alcohol and partying. The lyrics bring to mind Alice Cooper's song of the same name, or something by Katy Perry or Taylor Swift. The visuals bring to mind Usher and Pitbull. As the song progresses, though, we see the toll this life takes, an angle these songs rarely dive into. More and more we see Angel's hatred for Val, the pain he's put through, and the scenes of ecstasy intercut with scenes of pain. These scenes are frequently scenes of ecstasy, but just not for him. Scenes of him being used for the amusement and titillation of others. Intercut with these public scenes, we see private scenes of Angel and Val, which make my skin crawl. Many scenes not only imply their private relations, but also that Val either is part of the movies, or pauses them when his libido is too great so that he can use Angel for his own needs between shots. We see the pain and terror on his face in these scenes. The last chorus of this song is similar in construction and lyrical content to the others, but now the poison is no longer addictive. Now we see that it was never Angel's choice to be swept up by it. We see the clarity after the high, or rather the default state between the peaks. Angel doesn't do this, as the intro implied, for the party high and the sweet deal despite its flaws. He does it because he doesn't know anything else, and that the high it gives him drowns out the default state of his mind. Being swept up in the drugs and sex gives him a momentary distraction from the innate knowledge that he's slowly drowning, that his woes are all caused by the one thing in his life he relies on, that even though he wants to change, he's being forced not to. He desperately wants an escape, but the only one offered to him is the very thing that he wants to run away from. The only stability he has is the foundation of powder and smoke provided to him by the man making his life unstable. He can feel it killing him, and he has no reason to try and stop it anymore. Despite wanting to fix himself, he can't find a reason to, an excuse to wake up in the morning. This will kill him one day, and the longer it goes on, the more he becomes okay with that notion. His emotion becomes too great and he collapses, caught between the mental dichotomy of wanting to get better and escape, and thinking that the best way to do that is permanently, and just to let the corruption run its course. At least it's a sweet ride into oblivion. At least he can find moments of fun that he'll remember as he fades into ruin. At least he'll get what he deserves. This moment in the whole song, with this final context behind it. There's no other word for it, besides ruinous. At long last he's able to come home to the hotel, beaten and sore, but alive. Charlie sees the state he's in, and of course the first thing he asks for is a stiff drink. Unfortunately for him, the only person who can give it to him is Husk. Husk is both the perfect and the worst person for Angel right now. As soon as he recognizes Angel's condition, Angel has to pull himself together back into his usual deflective state. He insults Husk's ability to make him a drink strong enough, and flirts with him to mask the real feelings, as he knows it makes Husk uncomfortable, and he needs this man to be on the back foot for his own security. Husk doesn't back down, though, and calls him out on being fake. Now he's not able to joke about being an actor. He turns on Husk immediately and vitriolically. He threatens violence, but Husk sees right through it. He knows Angel is in no condition to fight, even if he wanted to. Unfortunately, while Husk being able to see Angel's true condition is exactly what Angel needs, Husk is a heavy hand at this business, and pushes too hard. Angel finally breaks, unable to use his persona to get out of the situation, and not having the energy or will left to fight, he breaks into a manic episode, claiming that he's worth a lot of money and that his status as a sex symbol puts him above Husk. He tells him that Husk's denial of Angel's sexual forwardness is crazy, as many others would kill to have him. Angel storms out past Vaggie with no plan or goal in mind. Charlie knows he's in a bad state, now having the context of his work environment to go off, and she blames herself still for him being in that state. Husk's dismissal that he always bounces back comes off as hollow to Charlie, who still wants to help, despite her earlier failure. Vaggie knows Charlie's in no emotional state to go after Angel, and probably doesn't want her going to the parts of town that Angel's likely to go to, so she confronts Husk, saying that it was his fault for Angel storming out, so he has to drag him back. Charlie, learning from her mistakes and Husk's, tells them not to drag him back, but just to keep him safe. She knows he'll come back in his own time, but just wants someone to safeguard him until he's in a stable enough mindset to come back on his own terms. She's learned that pushing too hard can cause problems. Husk wearily relents and follows Angel. Angel enters a maritime-themed club, gets drunk and high, and parties with a group of random shark gangsters. Husk follows while drinking his own sorrows away. When Husk notices that one of the sharks is about to spike Angel, he goes into action, throwing the guy into a jukebox and disarming the others, while pulling Angel out of there. Despite Charlie's intentions, Husk wants to drag Angel back to the hotel. When Angel protests, he points out that a shark was going to drug him. Darkly, Angel acknowledges the fact. It almost reads like he was setting himself up for this treatment. Husk comments on this, but Angel finally begins to crack. Not having the energy to keep his walls up solidly anymore, they begin to crumble, as he talks about how he never asked to be like this. He says he might do this to himself, but he doesn't want to. That while he knows that he needs to get better, while he hates everything he does, others do to him, and that the world did it to him, he has no other choice. Angel uses the last of his defensive energy to fight Husk, saying that he doesn't need Charlie or Husk to save him, and that he never asked, he can handle himself. Husk claps back, saying that he's self-destructing, and not handling anything right, and that he needs his help. Angel's not having it, though. He's seen and felt the damage people trying to help can do, and doesn't need that anymore. After Husk's display at the hotel, he's not opening up to him. Husk comments that he'd be kinder to Angel if he wasn't pushing his buttons all the time, and he uses the words Angel said in his manic episode, stating that nobody in the hotel cares about his clout, his attractiveness, his net worth, or his movies, and being so fake with his over-sexualized act is useless at this point. The third and final scene where Husk uses that word fake, and it's enough to break Angel. Even Husk didn't realize the effect this pushing would have. Angel begins crying, saying his persona is who he needs to be to stay safe and secure, that if that irony armor cracks for one moment, Val would kill him. He's not being fake, as that implies some ulterior motive or angle. Angel is just trying to get by, and questioning his persona is a direct threat to his safety. If anyone sees through his act, he's in mortal danger. The only thing left for him, therefore, is to savor the good feelings that his vices give him, and find goodness in the bad that it does him. At least if he gets drugged, he'll be unconscious and not have to think about things. At least if he gets high, he gets a rush that will take the pain away. At least if he's being assaulted, he's being of use to someone. At least if he gets broken, he'll be Valentino's least favourite toy, and he may finally leave him alone. He collapses in the street, his energy spent and his mental castles besieged and broken. Fortunately for him, the forlorn hope, the soldiers ready to charge into the breach in his walls, aren't looking to ransack his mind, and he doesn't have the energy to fight them anymore. Husk isn't here as an invader. He's here to soothe his wounds.
I was an overlord once, you know.
Wait, what? This is big, but this moment is too emotional to cover as a lore dump right now. Husk reveals that he was an overlord, and since his addiction was gambling, it also led him into bad choices that ended in a deal with a demon. Husk finds himself at the mercy of an abuser just like Angel, and has his own vices to cope. He can relate. Pushing his point further, he begins a musical number about how Angel must be feeling. He knows Angel feels like he's at his lowest low, that he's a terrible, pitiful creature who sees no hope of escape. And Husk tells him he's right. He spends a while insulting Angel, with the fresh energy and sudden distraction giving Angel just enough energy to bring back his joking side. Husk then brings out the point in observing all of Angel's flaws. He comments that they're flaws that they both share. He sings a verse about himself, how he felt the same way as Angel, and how maybe, just maybe, knowing that he's not alone down at the bottom of this pit, may make things just a little brighter. Angel begins to sing too, trying to distance himself. He says that he sold his soul to a psycho, but so did Husk. Husk dances with Angel, saying they're both losers. He gives Angel a chance to drop his armor for a moment, and Angel takes it, embracing his low-life status, and with Husk telling him that it's okay to be like this. Angel really starts to get into it, finally letting his true feelings be known, that he hates himself, and he sucks, but he's not the only one anymore. Both of them begin rattling off their vices and their mistakes. They lament that they're in a bad spot, but they find comfort, that maybe their shared experiences may lead to new ways to cope without being so destructive, and maybe even ways out of their turmoil. Husk tells Angel to forgive himself, allow the world to soothe him, and accept the hope that Charlie and he provide. He finishes the song telling him that he's better without the persona, and they end the song about to reaffirm their solidarity, when they're interrupted by the gangsters. Now that the emotion and the song is over, I can point out this subtitling error here. It's drug and not drug gang. The gangsters fight them, but Husk takes them on with his weaponized cards and dice, Gambit style. Angel helps him out, bringing out his other two arms, all wielding weapons. It's fun to see not only his full arachnid style that's usually abandoned for the sake of animation, but also that he's expanded his arsenal from just Tommy guns, including 2 grease guns and 2 what seem to be modified ARs. I can only guess an AR-10, but that doesn't match anything I can find. Angel comments that he can handle himself to some degree, and that sex isn't all that he's good for. Husk says that the guy beneath all the sex jokes isn't all that bad, and Angel gives a very genuine smile here. They head back to the hotel, with Angel having the confidence to badmouth Val, even. Charlie comes to apologize to him, but Angel is already way past forgiveness, thanking her for caring about him, and showing her the kindness and gentle touch he only hinted at earlier. At this genuine display of emotion, and hearing from him that she's forgiven, she breaks into tears, and Angel hands her back to Vaggie so that she can be taken to bed. Husk offers Angel a drink, and they both walk off into the sunset. This episode is a marvel of emotional storytelling and masterful production. It is able to make you follow in Angel's shoes as we feel his pain and hope. We've gone from the little personality play of the higher demons, and the main story that we've seen in the other episodes, into a personal story, which I love to see. The emotional setup that was missing from the other characters, sidelined by the plot, is fully on display here. It was summed up so beautifully by a VTuber that I watch a lot, called Alicia X Death, when she reacted to this episode a few days ago. To quote her, "Poison broke me, so Loser Baby could heal me." We follow Angel's journey both visually and emotionally, as the show refuses to pull any punches, just so that it can show you how soothing its remedy can be. I love that just with context clues, we can probably guess at Angel's full backstory. It's likely that we could have got it just from knowing that he works for Val, but, you know, We know from extended media that Anthony was a mafioso in the 1940s, that he died of a cocaine overdose, and when he came to hell he was a notorious man's man. You know, he was that man's man and that man's man. He belonged to all kinds of men, to quote Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. It's likely he harboured his homosexual feelings in life, too. And with him being part of an Italian crime family, it's likely that Catholic ideas were forced onto him, brutally. With the roaring 20s over and the world on the brink of war, organised crime was turning to hard drugs. Likely he partied away his worries with illegal booze, and once the liquor became legal again, he'd already developed a taste for it. He likely pivoted to hard drugs, as soon as they became the bread and butter of the mob. One day, likely because America was returning to more austere lives, as the social boundaries pushed by the 20s were being re-implemented in the 40s, he was caught in the act, or otherwise unable to fulfill his needs in private anymore, pushed by his family to closet himself. On a particularly rough night, he has too much coke, he has too much booze. Usually it sends him up in energy, but he feels so tired. He drifts off to sleep, and he wakes up after a particularly hard fall. Spending the next few days coping with being dead and in hell is probably not a fun time for any soul. But all his old coping mechanisms are here in hell too, and in stronger forms. Plus he can go as crazy as he wants, and he can't die anymore. He realizes that if he's already damned, he may as well just go a bit further, and get super into public displays of homosexuality. His promiscuity catches the eye of an up-and-coming demon overlord who promises Angel that he can do exactly what he's already doing, and Angel thinks it's a sweet deal, because it's just the same thing, but he gets paid, and we know that he's pretty impulsive. By the time the high passes, and reality sets in, it's already too late, and his soul belongs to Valentino. A lot of that is speculation, but unlike my theory in the last vid, I think this one is fairly grounded. I wonder if we'll see more of Angel's mob family. I seem to remember a design floating around for Angel's brother, and his father too, I think. I think his brother was called Arachnis or something. We don't get that many massive lore reveals in this show that flip the script quite as much as the fact that Husk used to be an overlord. We learn that he used to be replete with souls to waste and had a habit of gambling, eventually resulting in him losing his soul in a game of chance to Alistair. The fact that overlords can be toppled without being killed is interesting. In the pilot we hear that Alistair toppled overlords, but it was framed more like he killed them. This makes him a lot more of a scheming, cerebral character. We already knew that he was, and we also know that it's not below him to just kill a fool, but his preference now seems to be that toppling overlords is more about collecting them. It makes me wonder if that's the plan for Vox. It makes me wonder if Nifty was an overlord once. She's framed next to Alistair and Husk in this shot with all the other overlords, blacked out. This either implies that they're not overlords, but Alistair's minions. But we know that Husk was, so was Nifty? Why is she so chill about being forced into servitude? Did she willingly give herself over to Alistair? Did her losing everything break her? Or is she just a generic minion? Why don't people know Husk? True, people rarely see him outside of the hotel, but Pentious, who is obsessed with looking good for demon lords, doesn't comment on him at all. The gangsters here don't seem to be aware that they're tangling with an overlord, and honestly they'd be pretty likely to be involved with gambling. According to some sources that I don't 100% trust, Husk has been here since the 70s, so someone should have noticed that an ex-lord is hanging around the hotel and is in the thrall of Alistair. Either way, these two lore details are really all that we get. We see that Charlie only brings out her power when it's time to wreck a fool, and we see that Travis is Angel's director. We see Angel's contract, and these are really the main things. I guess we see that Angel sometimes has a spider abdomen. We also see this ad for the love potion that the shark was going to use earlier, finding out that it's a product sold by the V's. We see adverts for Angel's films and shows out on this street too. Besides these details, not much. We don't even see Alistair in this episode. They finally put aside the main story and the larger scope of hell to focus in on two characters, and they do it gorgeously. That doesn't mean that it's without its flaws, though. Production. I had the most issues with the animation in this episode. Just odd little things that bring down the grading curve slightly and seem like they should be easy fixes. Then again, I'm not an animator or a cleanup artist. I have no idea how hard this is. Firstly, Valentino's walk cycle here is just a little bit jank. Angel holding his gun behind the magazine, as if there's a handle there, or that his hand's supposed to be on the magazine, it just is weird. It also feels like they skip a fight scene here. It just ends so abruptly. Besides these admittedly small issues, the animation is its usual level of quality, with wonderful little character details and immense fluidity, especially during the musical numbers. I haven't commented much on editing in this review series, but during the Poison musical number, the intercutting of what should be a pretty routine or sensual music number recontextualizes the imagery as shocking and painful. This scene here is a masterclass in the Kuleshov effect. You know how when you see a house in a movie, and then you see the inside of a house in the next scene, you assume that you've just moved into the interior of the house you saw, right? That's the Kuleshov effect. Many films make good use of this, like Silence of the Lambs, where we assume that the cops are about to catch Buffalo Bill, but it's revealed that they're at a different house and Clarice is actually at Bill's place. This scene shows us Valentino dragging Angel out of frame, only to then see him partially dressed, covered in God knows what, and panicking. We can assume what happened, and it's heartbreaking. The same effect also implies that all of these scenes that we see here, whether on film or off, whether random actors or Valentino, all of them happened in one night. The lyrics of these songs are great. The twist of the usually seductive lyrics in Poison, turning what could be an addictive club song into a painful lament with a happy mask on, perfectly fits the situation and matches Angel exactly. The hopeful lyrics of Loser Baby and its very construction are wonderful, being a hopeful song to overcome trauma with the novel idea that it's healthy to admit that you're a bit of a mess, and sometimes that all you need is a friend who can understand you. A lot of these themes have been toyed with in past episodes. Vaggie talks about Charlie understanding her and lifting her out of her darkness in the last episode, just as one example. But since it's in a musical number that's also serving Carmilla's motivation and the important plot on the same plate, there's little room for this treat. This episode has all the time for these emotional themes, and doesn't need the main plot to be chugging along to keep us engaged. The vocal talent on display here is beyond comprehension. We've already seen Angel's VA, Blake Roman, handle the comedic elements of Angel, but now we see him trying on other elements. His vocal performance catches the slipping of the mask. You can hear the terror in his voice.
No, that's not what I'm trying to do.
You can hear the pain behind his words.
I didn't want you to come here. I already asked you to leave, and you didn't listen.
You can hear all the camp drain out of him when he finally lets go of his persona.
Oh, me? Fake? Wow, I had no idea. Guess that's why I'm an actor, dumbass. Like I said, you don't know me. Sex ain't the only thing I'm good at.
Through vocal performance alone, you can hear Angel relax by the end of the episode. He's no longer trying so hard just to exist. Keith David finally comes into his own as Husk, and now I begin to accept his interpretation of the character. I can listen to Keith gruffly exposit about his tragic backstory until the heat death of the universe. He's got a thing for darkness, which comes off as death threats in Spawn and smug but knowing prods in Dr. Facilier, but with Husk, he captures the character of a man who's accepted his fate but still laments it.
So I know what it's like to regret the choices made, and know when you can't take it back.
He delivers no-nonsense yet caring tones that are hard to walk the line of, not being too harsh, not being too kind, and being able to know when to cross both of those lines when the character needs it. Both of these guys sing like nothing else. Keith brings a deep and sultry tone that reminds me of other Woe Is Me type tracks, but you can hear his joy in pointing out flaws, and his joy in finding a kindred spirit. He adds a certain joy and sadness that is wonderful to hear and much needed for this song and this episode. Counterbalanced and enhanced by Blake's higher register and his confidence. He sings just as Angel's candor comes back, and we hear that in his delivery and performance. Together their opposing ends of the vocal scale pair beautifully in their shared lines and notes.
If we eat shit together, things will end up differently.
And I personally just really love Blake's held note here while Keith delivers his last hope-filled line.
Lose yourself, loathing, excuse yourself, let hope in, baby.
Blake is also very able to capture the pain and suffering in Angel through his vocal performance. But I'm just so happy to hear the joy that Angel has by the end of the episode.
Poison, I'm sick of the poison. Wish I had something to live for tomorrow. I'm a loser, honey, a schmoozer and a dummy, but at least I know I'm not alone.
You're a loser just like me.
Joel Perez finally leaves behind the comedy too, in favour of the full-blown explosive rage and smug villain energy. Even if I were to hear him without the visuals of him hurting Angel or smiling smugly at Charlie, I'd be able to hear his malice, his evil. He oozes creepy vibes and bone-chilling wickedness. He makes me want to see him not in the show anymore, because he does such a good job at making Valentino a villain so bad that I wish they'd kill him off already.
Good boy.
Erica Henningsen also gets to expand into further reaches with Charlie. While I wish we'd have seen more of her angry side, and while I think that they messed up not really allowing her to be upset at Angel or have some lingering effect from his unkind words, I get that she's a forgiving character, and we see enough of her pain that I'd rather not see more of it. She captures the negative emotions of Charlie that we rarely see from this happy-go-lucky princess. Her emotion in these scenes is heart-wrenching, and I wish that we got to see more of it that's not played off as a joke by the end of the episode.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. He said he forgave me.
The writing in this episode hurts me, but it's only because it loves me. They know exactly how, and importantly when, to induce the right emotions in me, and they know how these characters should act. They know that this stuff won't go away after one musical number, and they master the art of catharsis. They're able to build up so much negative emotion here that the song feels like a natural result of it all, having the perfect lead-in with the whole scene with Charlie, Val, and Angel. They also know that the emotion of Husk's backstory and Angel's reaction to it is the perfect time to bring in this number. It shows a level of emotional understanding and character comprehension that was somewhat lacking in the last episode. Overall, this episode was stunningly harrowing and beautifully hopeful. I feel like just watching Husk and Angel walk off here that I need more right this second. I can't explain it, but I love Episode 2 as a casual watch with the fun villain song and the hilarious demon interactions, but I adore Episode 4 on a spiritual level. I enjoy Episode 2, but I love Episode 4 like I love a close friend or a family member. One is a comfort show on a dark night, one is a warm hug in a bed after a trauma-induced nightmare. I suppose my wanting to see more right this second isn't exactly going to be overdrawn. We're going to see more soon enough, as Friday, as I type, is 5 hours and 30 minutes away. A new episode is coming.